Hello and welcome back to the Sports Shield podcast. Today is Friday, December 9th, and we've got a big weekend in NFL to preview for you, as well as some news about the college football playoff. I'm Zack Pohlman, your host.
I'm Quinn Kennedy, and let's dive right in. First off, Thursday Night Football happened last night, Rams versus Raiders. Baker Mayfield did the impossible. He came back a 98-yard touchdown drive with less than 2 minutes remaining. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
I mean, Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady are just the same quarterback. We saw Brady's Buccaneers do this against the Saints, down 16-3, end up winning 17-16. The NFL scriptwriters are having a blast.
Yeah, I saw some crazy stat earlier today where it was like in the past 45 seasons, out of teams who are trailing by 14 points or more with less than 4 minutes remaining, it's like 4 wins to 500 losses. And half those wins have come in the past 4 days.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
It's crazy. All right, and then we got to preview some games here. We got a big NFC North showdown between two playoff teams, most likely. The Minnesota Vikings in first place are playing in Detroit at Ford Field against the Detroit Lions. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Lions here. Jared Goff has been on a roll. I think this team has done very well together, even after trading away TJ Hawkinson to the Vikings, who they're about to have a revenge game against. I just think this Lions team has had a lot of momentum, great coaching, and I think they're going to win this one.
Yeah, see, I think the Vikings are just too talented. Justin Jefferson going to cut through that Lions secondary like butter. Kirk Cousins have a good game. TJ Hawkinson going to play out of his mind for his revenge game. Give me the Lions in this one, or the Vikings.
Yeah. Next up is another big matchup in the NFC, but it's the NFC East this time. Eagles at Giants.
Yeah, these are two of the league's better teams. MVP candidate at quarterback for the Eagles and Danny Dimes at QB for the Giants. That being said, I think the Eagles win this one. I don't think it's particularly close. The Giants have been a nice surprise this year, but the Eagles, I think, have shown that they're by far the NFC's top team right now.
I'm going to take the upset here. I'm going to go with the Giants. I trust in Saquon. I think he's going to have a monster game against that team. Giants, I think, are going to do great. Even while they are low on wide receivers, that running game, I think, is unstoppable.
Now headed over to the AFC. There's a matchup between two young premier quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa and his Dolphins take on Justin Herbert's Chargers in Los Angeles. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Dolphins into this one. The Chargers have kind of just not done great this season, not what they were expected to do. They have a franchise-caliber quarterback at Q and in Justin Herbert, and they really haven't done much around him. They haven't hit on any of their draft picks, and they really haven't been able to do much to help him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Dolphins. Tua is playing like an MVP at this stage of the season, plus Tyreek Hill has been one of the league's best receivers, and you have Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 2, who a lot of teams would probably be happy to have as their WR1. So I think the Dolphins might run up the score in this one, unfortunately, though I think this is a great matchup between two young quarterbacks who are going to be hopefully in the playoffs for years to come.
Yeah, and as a heads up, start Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Fantasy-wise, they're going to do great this week.
Yeah.
Chargers defense is banged up, and their defense overall just isn't great.
All right, we had some big news this week. The college football season is just about wrapped up. The committee released their final rankings of the year. It'll be number 1 seed Georgia versus the 4 seed Ohio State, and number 2 Michigan versus number 3 TCU. Those are the two college football semifinals. Who you got in the first one, Georgia v. Ohio State?
I'm going to take Georgia here. They've looked unstoppable. They are a first-round pick producing factory, and somehow they just keep having better and better players every year. Players like Jordan. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's going to be Georgia. Ohio State has seemed to prove this year that they do not play very well against good teams. That being said, I do think there is a way in which Ohio State's talent and speed can keep this game close. They have the best wide receiver core in the country with Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, and Julian Fleming. And I think eventually the Georgia defense is going to make a stand and deny C.J. Stroud. And Georgia move on to the finals.
Next up is Michigan versus TCU. Who do you have here, Zach?
I think that, well, this is a surprising matchup maybe coming into the season. The Horned Frogs weren't necessarily expected to be here. I think that Michigan wins this one in a close game. Their ability to rack up big plays in the fourth quarter and when they need it most has been insane. And it's only really been rivaled this season by TCU's late magic comebacks. TCU's fought back from behind in a lot of their conference games. So I think these are two very tough, gritty teams that'll produce a good game in the semifinal. But I do think that with Michigan having beaten Ohio State, who I do think is a stronger caliber team than TCU, I think that Michigan will move on to the finals. How about you?
I think I'm going to take TCU here. I really want to see them go far. They haven't really been a mainstay in the college playoffs. And I think Quentin Johnston is going to go crazy in that final drive, and it's going to be some absolutely wild must-watch play.
All right, so my pick would be Georgia versus Michigan in the college football playoff final, and you would be going Georgia versus TCU. Who do you see winning it all?
Georgia. I think they're going to go back-to-back.
Yeah, I agree. They've just been dominant this year. From the very first game when they put up about 50 points on Oregon, who ended up being a top 15 team, they've just been dominating on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's a way for any other team to win this besides Georgia or Ohio State. Michigan and TCU just don't have the toughness on both sides of the ball to keep up with the blue chip factories.
Yeah, I think just Georgia's an unbeatable team. They're going to be terrifying for years to come.
All right, that's all the sports news we have for you this weekend. Stay safe. Have a good weekend. Go Vikings.